In September 2009, Declan Kelly was appointed by the US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton as the US Economic Envoy to Northern Ireland. Declan is a former Vice President of FTI, a global business consultancy. Mr. Kelly began his career as a journalist and worked for the Nenagh Guardian and the Tipperary Star newspapers before joining the Cork Examiner in the mid-90s. A graduate of the National University of Ireland, Galway, Mr. Kelly now serves as the chairman of the university's US Foundation Board. We caught up with Declan at the Lord Mayor's Belfast Without Barriers business breakfast, where Declan was giving the keynote address to business leaders from across the city. After the event, we managed to speak to the envoy about his role and his views on the Northern Ireland economy.
Hi Declan, thanks for meeting with us today. First of all, how would you describe the role of the US Economic Envoy in Northern Ireland?
My job is to promote the trade and investment opportunities between North America and Northern Ireland and to facilitate trade and investment between the two regions. It was set up as a result of Secretary of State Clinton's decision to focus on the economic mission in Northern Ireland as the next step to the future of developing Northern Ireland as a whole, and to have a link between that mission and touching in principle the hard-to-reach communities in Northern Ireland, as they're called. And so we have both a social and an economic mission in that regard. And we have an office in Washington and another one in New York, working with the State Department to try and fulfill that agenda.
I see. And how would you sort of see the current economic climate within Northern Ireland? What are your own thoughts on it?
I think the economic climate here is similar to many other parts in the world. You've got a challenged global macroeconomic environment. You have difficulties on the horizon still. There's no point in saying that they're not. But I actually think there's great reason for optimism. One of the principles of my speech today was that actually, because of the size of the Northern Ireland economy in particular, and because of the different aspects in that economy, because of where I think the growth is going to come from globally in the future, in terms of the world's dynamics in the next 5 to 10 years, I think Northern Ireland actually is better positioned than most other developed economies to actually take advantage of that. I think part of the challenge is to get people to understand that. The other thing is to make people internationally understand what's going on here, because when we get people from America to Northern Ireland, what they see is something completely different than what they expected. And so we're working aggressively. We've got over a dozen different initiatives going on at the moment out of my office to try and make sure that we continue to spread that message. And I'm hugely optimistic for the future. Our challenge is to make sure that we harness all the potential opportunities that exist.
Excellent. And with that in mind and looking ahead, what sort of industries do you think that are going to be the important ones from Northern Ireland's perspective in terms of our own economic sustainability?
Well, we published a strategic development plan about 2 months ago that we worked on for several months, and we have 40 different people in our working group, both in Northern Ireland and in America, all of whom are leaders of business. And so we did an evaluation, and we did a lot of work with them to understand what they thought were the emerging opportunities. We then also worked with Invest Northern Ireland to have a look at and examine what they were doing. And I believe we've all landed in the same place, because when you do the analysis, the data supports the fact that there are 4. They are emerging technologies, business services, financial services, and connected health. And the good news is that Northern Ireland is investing its own money and its own energy in those 4 areas. And you're ahead of the curve in several of them, as you've seen. For example, last week you had GE Energy. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens because GE Energy actually realises that Northern Ireland is at the cutting edge of what they do for their business. And having visited them in Georgia, I saw it for myself. And the same thing goes for New York Stock Exchange Technologies or all the other companies that have invested here. There have been over 1,000 jobs in the last 9 months alone. So the good news is that while the economic climate is challenging, while it will continue to be challenging for a period of time, I believe, you are bringing in the right kinds of jobs in the right kind of industries at the right time. And our challenge is to make sure that we accelerate that as much as we can and take advantage, because I believe the opportunity for Northern Ireland is actually right now.
I see. And with that in mind, how do you view the role of the US economy within Northern Ireland? Do you see it as a benefactor, as an investor, as a partner? How do you view that connection?
It's a two-way relationship. America is invested in Northern Ireland politically and economically. This is the only place in the world where America has an economic envoy. It's the only place in the world where it has an economic mission of this nature. I think that speaks volumes not only for the relationship but also for the confidence it has in the region. And American companies employ many thousands of people here in this society and have done for several decades. And we just see that increasing, and my job is to make sure that we continue to do that as much as possible.
I see. And from the point of view of a lot of our users are young people, and WIMPS is very much a young people focused website. What do you think about the opportunities for young people in Northern Ireland? In economic terms, traditionally we've had a brain drain, a lot of young people having to go abroad to find work. Do you think are those opportunities here for them in Northern Ireland at this present moment?
I actually do. I think it's all about how it's messaged and presented to them. As I said today, Northern Ireland has the youngest population in Europe. At least that's what I understand to be the case. It's also got one of the youngest populations in Europe under the age of 16, and that is both a risk and an opportunity. And I say that because I really think what's important is to make sure that you leverage that opportunity, because if you remember many years ago, when there was an awful lot of conversation about the Republic of Ireland having the youngest population under the age of 25, for example, that was something that they leveraged very heavily at the right time, and the world paid attention to it. You've got to message that kind of information into everything that you do around the world to make sure that people understand that that's what's coming out of here. Companies that invest in Northern Ireland care about all the things that you would imagine, including investment opportunity, grant aid and all that stuff, but more important, they care about the emerging talent and whether or not universities are producing the right number of people. So I've been to Queen's, and I've been to University of Ulster, and I've talked to them, and I've lectured there, in fact, at one time at Queen's as well. And my message is very clear. If you stay in Northern Ireland and if you focus on the right kind of education in the areas where the opportunities are emerging, which is the 4 that I've just mentioned, I really think it's a great time to be spending time here. The final thing I'll say, we've just created a mentorship program with the Northern Ireland Science Park, which I hope will grow exponentially over the next number of years, to get about 25 young people from Northern Ireland into leadership positions for a year in American businesses run by people who are participating in my working group. And that will enable them to see how large corporations are run right at the coalface, bring that skill back to Northern Ireland, and hopefully use that to run their own businesses here. And we're going to develop a specific tailor-made program for each one of these people, so that when they're inside those companies, they actually have an individual program that helps them come back and use those skills here in Northern Ireland.
That's excellent. Well, super. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us. It was really very nice to meet you.
Likewise.